Hey everybody, I'm Leslie. I live in a small town that I just hate. I don't even have friends here. One day, everything changed, and I thought that it was all going to be great. But instead, I ended up in my worst nightmare. I've always been tall, even taller than a lot of the guys in our class. Add to that red hair and freckles, and you've got the perfect target for teasing. And then Game of Thrones came out, and everyone thought I looked like Sansa Stark. It got even worse. People started shouting after me, "Make way for the Queen of the North!" Plus, many other mean jokes that brought me to tears. When I turned 18, my parents took me to a cafe, and it changed my life. The waiter handed me a rose with my dessert. He told me that it was from a gentleman at another table. I was blushing so much. Getting that kind of attention in front of my parents sucked. But to my surprise, they thought it was cute. As we were about to leave, the strange guy came up to us. First, he introduced himself to my parents, and then he told me that he had never met such a beautiful girl. I wanted to bury my head in the ground. Seriously, who introduces themselves like that anymore? It's like he was from the last century. I stared at the floor in embarrassment as my parents started chatting him up. In the end, my mother invited him to dinner. I was shocked. On the way home, I asked them why I was being pimped out. If they liked him so much, they could have dinner with him and without me. But the next day, he came to our house. His name was Samir. He was 22, and he had completely captivated my parents. Even though it all annoyed me, I gave him my phone number. We started messaging each other. I woke up and fell asleep to his texts. He was very considerate and kind. Then we went to the movies, then to the cafe, and then he came to pick me up from school in his ridiculously cool car. You should have seen the looks on the faces of the kids at school. Their jaws dropped so low, you could have scraped them off the asphalt. For the first time in my life, someone needed me. I was wanted and adored. Samir was originally from the UAE. His family was rich, and he was damn attractive and head over heels in love with me. It was like he had been sent to me for the years of bullying and mocking. But no. A week before prom, he told me he wanted to come with me. Us showing up there is still talked about to this day, even though it's been over a year. Of course, Samir had gone too far, but what the hell did it matter if he had done it for me? The next morning, a courier delivered me an outfit based on Sansa Stark's dress. It had gold and precious stones, and no natural fur. Otherwise, I never would have put it on. We arrived in a limousine. For the first time, everyone was looking at me with envy. And then Samir took me to the lake where we had arranged a romantic evening, just for the two of us. And he proposed to me. I wasn't expecting that at all. I told him it was too fast. I told my mother, although I knew that she would talk me out of it, and it would have saved me from an irreparable mistake. But she didn't mind. She said that she and Dad really liked Samir, and it was a great match because I was in love with him too. A few days later, I said yes. According to Samir's family traditions, the wedding was in Dubai. We saw my parents off and stayed there for a while. And then, a week after our wedding, Samir took me to a luxurious mansion where his first 2 wives lived. Samir didn't know that I knew so many curse words. I can't even tell you how shocked I was. I had been duped, and even worse, I was now a part of his weird collection. Yep, the other 2 girls looked just like Daenerys and Cersei. We had a real battle of thrones ahead of us. Samir convinced me that my life would be luxurious. I would have my own house, and I wouldn't even see the other 2 wives, except at family gatherings. No thanks. I locked myself in my room and went on a hunger strike until he told me how he had done it all. The very next day, he couldn't take it anymore and told me everything. Samir was really obsessed with the women from Game of Thrones. His agent had found me. He had been looking all over the world for lookalikes and came across my Instagram. Samir flew to our town and met my parents first. He told them that he understood how hard it is to let your daughter go to another country, and then offered them compensation. Then my parents helped him arrange our first meeting in the cafe. The rest, you already know. In his own way, Samir really loved me, but I was not going to be the third wife in his harem. I wanted to go back to the States. He gave me a divorce because he had no right to refuse it. I didn't want to ask money from my traitorous parents for a return ticket and thought I would be stuck in Dubai for a long time. But Samir wrote me a check for a large amount. He told me that he loved me and hoped that I would change my mind. I returned to the USA, moved to New York, started going to college, and got an apartment. I don't want to talk to my parents. I don't know if I can ever forgive them. By the way, they never got that compensation payment. Under the terms of the contract, Samir had to pay them $10 million after a month of us being married. Since then, I've developed a fear of going outside the United States. I'm even kind of glad that it's impossible right now. Well, that was my story. Thank you for listening till the end. And my advice to you, before you agree to marry a man, get to know him better. Hello everyone, my name is Abby and I'm 18. I'm going to tell you what happened to me. Exactly 5 years ago, I permanently changed my lifestyle. I was sitting in anatomy class when suddenly I got a sharp pain in my stomach. I couldn't stand it and collapsed. I don't remember the looks of those around me, but when I opened my eyes, I was already in the hospital. I was surrounded by my parents, younger brother, and my best friends Andrew and Sarah who had come from school. I slowly turned my head and saw a red tube with a needle at the end. It was sticking out of my vein. After that, I lost consciousness. Later, it turned out that I had variegate porphyria. My blood required more hemoglobin, so they did a blood transfusion. Since that day, my life has completely changed. 2 days later, I was discharged from the hospital. Doctors talked to me about living with such a disease. Once a month, I have to drink genetically modified blood so I wouldn't have any more seizures like I did in school. Every day, I need to eat special foods that increase hemoglobin. I can't have stress. I can't take antiviral pills because they exacerbate the symptoms. The most important thing is not to get sick, which sounded very strange. Now I understand why I always felt uncomfortable in the sun. My skin would burn a little from the inside, but once the disease manifested itself, I simply couldn't stand in the sun anymore. I'm not a fan of tanning anyway, so it hasn't been a big deal for me. But at home now, I have a closet full of clothes that absorb the sun's rays. I immediately began Googling my illness and realized that I had a mild case. My hair stood on end as I read about what it was. I had a type of hepatic porphyria. People with Gunther's disease, erythropoietic porphyria, can't be in the sun, as their skin becomes very sensitive to sunlight. The most interesting part is that the gums recede and the teeth lengthen, which makes them appear sharp, like vampires. I saw an article talking about how, during the time of the Inquisition, people with the disease were shunned and sent to prison in Transylvania because they were thought to be vampires or werewolves. That's where the legends come from. The theory about garlic is also true. The smell of it became even more unbearable. Before the onset of the disease, I didn't really like it, but now I can't stand it at all. It's most likely just all in my head. My friend started calling me a vampire, and Sarah Buffy, the vampire slayer. So, Buffy, when are you gonna start your work? And so every day, despite my problems, I almost didn't notice them. Sometimes I would drink blood around my friends. The disgust on their face amused me, and I would smile at them with a bloody smile. My gums receded and my teeth lengthened, especially the canines. They looked very sharp, just like the fake teeth used in vampire movies. But not everything was as terrible as the doctors had described when they diagnosed me. Once I got used to everything, I would often scare my younger brother. For example, before Halloween, I had to drink my prescription blood. I called my brother and waited until he came into the room. Then I drank the blood, bared my teeth, and rushed at my brother. He jumped back and ran to his mother screaming. I don't know why, but I found it extremely entertaining. I've been living with this disease for 5 years now. It's not easy, but I smile. I'm glad that humanity pays attention to such diseases and helps people instead of avoiding them. That's my story. Thank you, everybody, for watching.